welcome to That's Canon, the podcast talking about the canon film series and other similar movies. This is episode 67, and I'm Phil.
And I'm Greg.
And Greg, I really want to watch Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Phil, we have Temple of Doom at home.
What do you mean we have it at home?
We have Allan Quatermain and the Lost City of Gold from 1986.
Oh my word. Yeah. You know what? I will say this right off the bat. This one was way better than the last one. It was way better than Allan Quatermain and the
King Solomon's Mines.
Solomon's Mines.
Yes, I'm really relieved to hear you say that because I felt the same way, and for a lot of complex reasons, which we'll get into, I feel really conflicted about that. But I kind of didn't hate this one as much as I did King Solomon's Mines. Like, I remember having this really visceral hatred for that movie throughout the whole thing, but I didn't kind of feel that. This one wasn't too bad by comparison.
Exactly. I think there was a couple things going for it that kind of separated it from the last one in that they dropped a lot of A, B, and C plot stuff. And they kept it very, very focused on the Lost City of Gold aspect.
It definitely felt very much more streamlined. It was a lot easier to follow. I mean, even from the outset, like, remember how the King Solomon's Mines movie started where, like, it felt like we were starting in the middle of a different movie that, like, we didn't see the beginning of? But, like,
yes.
all the characters knew each other already. They were already, like, on an adventure, but in an awkward way. Like, this one like, you were able to kind of follow what was going on, what everyone's motivations were from the very beginning, and they didn't have a lot of, like, fluff in the background.
Yeah, exactly. And I at the very beginning, it kind of started off that way, where the very, very beginning, where I was like, oh no, they're doing the same mistake from the previous one.
People running in the woods, yeah.
They immediately righted the ship. And, and also remember, this movie is directed by Gary Nelson, who did not do the first Allan Quatermain film either.
Ah, okay. I was going to ask you how much crew, like how many people behind the camera were in common, because it feels so structurally different that I figured there must have been a change there, so that's good to hear.
Yeah, exactly. And it's even crazier because these films were shot back to back. So they just swapped out the director from the first one to the second one. I don't get it.
So yeah, I was wondering about that because, I mean, we may have already talked about this last episode, or when we talked about King Solomon's Mines, but yeah, like that came out in 85, the first one, and this was 86. I mean, I'm assuming like at most a year and a half, maybe even less than a year, geez.
I think it's less than a year than that these like debuted. So the Lost City of Gold, which is the one that we're talking about, came out January 30th, 1987. And King Solomon's Mines, that one came out I'm pulling it up right now. And of course I can't find it because it's not exactly where it was. In the previous one, November 22nd, 1985. So actually there was quite a distance between them. Almost
a year and 2 months?
Yeah.
Something like that. But still, like, it's amazing to me that two movies shot back to back could feel so different.
Exactly. With them being made so close to each other.
Yeah, with all the same cast, which we should talk about. We basically reprise the two main characters in this movie.
So we get Sharon Stone. She comes back as the highly annoying Jesse Huston. And Richard Chamberlin comes back as Allan Quatermain, who I think he does a way better job in this film than he did the previous one. He was more Allan Quatermain-y, if that makes sense.
So he was definitely less annoying. He was kind of like, I don't know. I feel like I remember in the first one, he was kind of an asshole.
He was. He wasn't suave. He wasn't,
charming,
sophisticated or charming, right? He kind of, I don't want to say he came off as like a Tarzan guy, but he definitely didn't come off.
Not like a likable hero,
yeah.
like an Indiana Jones, which, again, yeah, we made the joke in the beginning, but like this is very, very obviously another Indiana Jones ripoff.
Yep.
Were they actively trying to do a Temple of Doom ripoff, or had that not even come out yet? What's the
Temple
timeline?
of Doom came out, I believe, early 80s.
Okay.
Temple of Doom was 1984. So this, and I got big Temple of Doom vibes from this because
Right?
of the Indian guy that joins Allan Quatermain on this adventure.
You say that like it wasn't a white guy in brownfaceville.
Dude, there was a couple times this movie where I was like, I don't know. This looks like a white guy. Because
Yeah.
Robert Donner plays, his name is fucking Shawarma.
Yeah, it was like the chicken dish. God damn it.
Yeah. And Henry Silva plays Agon, who he was in, I guess, like light brown face in this.
Yeah, he was sort of like the evil priest in the city. Yeah. So like that's why I feel so conflicted about kind of not hating this movie as much as I did the first one, is because the casual like racism and problematic shit all around is not really any less prevalent in this movie than it was in the first one. It's all there in strong form in this movie too. But I think the fact that like the movie was structurally more entertaining, that I don't know. I guess I just desensitized to it more in this one. It's hard to describe.
Exactly. It is hard to describe because there's so much. I think because they stripped it away and because it's the 80s, and I don't think the brown face was as horrible in this as other ones that we've seen. It's kind of, I don't want to say forgivable or passable, but it's definitely not as big of an, I don't even know if I want to say that.
No, I know
we'll
what you mean.
Just say
like,
that it is what it is.
I think it is the fact that we're so used to seeing it in these shitty 80s movies that like, yeah, we've just kind of been desensitized to it, almost like we've come to expect it. So the bar is so low to like, just don't be quite this racist. But
exactly.
And this one managed to clear it, kind of. Not really though. I don't know. Again, we're conflicted about how we feel about this movie.
Exactly. Well, let's go ahead and let's get talking about Allan Quatermain and the Lost City of Gold.
Longest title in the history of movies.
Yeah, and right off the, we already kind of said it, but right off the bat, it starts doing the Evil Dead camera thing in the woods as we follow some random guy running away from an evil tribe. Like it just immediately starts into the action, kind of like how Raiders of the Lost Ark does, right?
Mm-hmm.
We see Indiana Jones doing Indiana Jones shit. But then it immediately cuts to Sharon Stone, and she's there to pick up a package for Allan Quatermain. That, like, the gag, once we find out what's inside of it, really falls flat.
Yeah, I actually thought, like, so she's, like, running along, it's like a train station or something, and she just, like, runs up to this pile of luggage and just swipes something off the top. I thought she was just, like, stealing some guy's luggage. Like, it wasn't clear to me that she was there to pick up a package that she'd ordered.
Exactly. I know it kind of like zooms in on the package, but it doesn't stay there long enough for my slow brain to actually read what it's saying, right?
Yeah, a smooth brain just thinks Sharon Stone's kleptomania is going berserk.
Exactly. We finally do get some Allan Quatermain action as he's shooting fruits in the air that kids are launching. Pretty, pretty lame. Those kids look kind of hungry. He shouldn't be just shooting fruit. Like, he's in Africa. It's impoverished. He should be giving away that stuff, not
I was
shooting
thinking
it.
the same thing. Like, why are we using food for target practice? It just seems so tone deaf of a thing to do in a country that has a lot of problems with, like, famine and things like that. Ugh.
Exactly.
Again, we're desensitized to this shit.
Exactly. I think this was something that we complained about last time, though, where Allan Quatermain, he never showed off like his hunting, survival, shooting skills that well, and they kind of tried to resolve it in this one. In the very beginning, he does a couple other like adventurous type things, but nothing too amazing in this.
Yeah.
But this does show off his ability to shoot tomatoes in the air. But Sharon Stone eventually opens up the package, and it's a suit because Sharon Stone and Allan Quatermain, they're going to get married and they're going to go back to America. And there's a little strife between them because Allan doesn't want to go and Sharon wants to go.
Yeah, I mean, he is American, right? Like, has he just been here so long he doesn't want to go home? I don't know.
I probably, like, he's a man of adventure, right? But even Indiana Jones goes home, and he's a teacher.
And
so.
he went to office hours and did the mundane stuff. I feel like that's what you almost like. That maybe that's the part that's missing in this one is the fact that Allan Quatermain has to like settle down at some point to like do normal people things, so that when he goes on an adventure, it seems more like an adventure and not just like his normal life.
Exactly. Like, we need to see there, because the action starts so quickly and they don't break it up, because unlike Indiana Jones, this doesn't take the time to really expand upon the characters. We don't see Allan Quatermain as a real person. We only see him as the adventurer.
Yeah.
So we don't really have a litmus to judge against who he is outside of being Allan Quatermain, right?
Exactly, yeah. We almost, what would have been cool is like he has like in between the two movies, he has to take a job doing like taking wealthy people on safari or something, like a miserable job that he's like carting these annoying tourists around, and we see him being really miserable. And it's like a normal job for someone like him, but he's really miserable. And then the adventure comes up and he's like, yay, hot diggity, I can go on an adventure again.
Exactly, because he owns like a house. And we saw from the last movie, he doesn't really take any artifacts or anything like that in order to keep his, I guess, like villa or village in Africa alive. So it's really a mystery of what he does. And I think we're expecting too much from Allan Quatermain. But eventually, the guy who is running in the forest, he comes upon Allan Quatermain's area, and he starts talking about the lost city of gold, and he passes out. And then Allan Quatermain chases off the tribe that's been hunting him. Of course, his new suit gets tarnished in the kerfuffle, which makes Allan extremely happy and Sharon very upset.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of funny, like this mountain man doesn't want to put on nice clothes. He's behaving like a little kid almost, like who's being forced to put on a suit to go to church, and he just wants to rip it off as soon as he can. I get it. It's fine.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, I think everyone kind of gets that way, right? Even after vacation, you don't want to get into your work clothes. So, but I guess it's the opposite for him. He doesn't want to get into formal clothes because he's always in his work clothes.
He loves it.
Exactly. So he finally gets the information out of the guy who's been chased that there's a lost city of gold. They find a golden coin and Sharon's stone. And I guess this is from the first movie because they don't really touch upon it about like who she is or what she is in this film, but she knows stuff, right? She's like a archaeologist of some kind.
Yeah, it is so unbelievable. This is where we get our quote of the week right up front. And it's because of this concept of Sharon Stone being this archaeologist, because she does not behave like an academic in any sense of the word. She behaves like a child most of the time. But like it reminded me of, you remember Tara Reid in that Alone in the Dark movie from like 2004? Yes. Like she's just so unbelievable as like this academic archaeologist. I think she's an archaeologist in that movie too. But like when Sharon Stone starts describing this artifact using silly, we'll play the quote right here.
This knife. What do you think?
Very strange. Sun symbol is definitely Egyptian. But the graphics are Phoenician. And the detail is very advanced.
And I just laughed out loud at that. And I don't know what it is. Like I think it's the use of the word graphics. Like the graphics are Phoenician. That seems like the wrong word to use there. But like, and then she just goes, "Oh, it's very advanced." I don't know. The way she described it does not sound like how someone who studies this stuff would describe something. It's just so unbelievable. I laughed the hardest at that line of any of the lines in the movie.
Yeah, that's graphics. It's not how Indiana Jones would say it, that's for sure.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. They sounds like they just like made up some bullshit line to put in there to make her sound smart, but it just ended up having the opposite effect, which is hilarious to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think about Sharon Stone in this, but she's still annoying, but she's less annoying, right? And I think this is the only agency that she really has in the entire film of like doing something.
Yeah,
right?
she is occasionally the person who they ask for, like, hey, what's going on? What is this thing? What is this language on the wall? Like, she occasionally gets asked about that stuff. So I guess even if she's unbelievable as this, archaeologist expert, at least they give her something more concrete to do in the group, as opposed to just being sort of this, like, hanger on. Because, like, in the first movie, she was trying to get her dad back, so she was just tagging along because it was her dad, but, like, not really doing anything to actively help drive the plot. At least she had that going for her in this movie.
Exactly. So later that night, after they look at the graphics of the coin, there's like the Evil Dead shaky cam thing that goes through and up to their house. You know what I'm talking about? Like the thing when it goes through the woods.
Yeah, like it's almost like it's like a POV like steady cam that they speed up to make it look like someone's running through the woods.
Exactly. Turns out that it's the tribesmen that were chasing the guy in the beginning of the film. They grab a machete and kill him. And his face is so goofy when he gets killed.
He's got this, like, his mouth is wide open, but he's like all contorted. Like, I don't know. It's hard to describe. It's like what you would tell a kid, like, hey, look scared. And the kid make this like big goofy face. That's what it looks like.
Exactly. This is my scary face. Yeah. So the next day, Allan Quatermain, they go into town, and there's a street vendor that's essentially trying to sell him mithril from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, he's got a little mithril vest. It's almost too exactly like Lord of the Rings to have not been something that someone stole from the books.
Exactly.
Right?
It's too on the spot because he even says like it's super light. It could stop anything. Yeah. Everyone in your group is going to need it. Like, essentially, we're selling you plot armor to hand wave anything and everything that happens in this film.
Yeah, and it even looks like it's like the very fine like silver mesh that it is in Lord of the Rings. Like, did Peter Jackson rip off Allan Quatermain in the Lost City of Gold, Phil?
Yeah, exactly.
Did he steal a prop?
J.R.R. Tolkien went to the future to see what Allan Quatermain did to write it in the past.
Oh my God, that's gold, he said from his time machine.
It's interesting for sure, but he buys it obviously because it goes to everyone, and then we get introduced to Shawarma, who is like a voodoo priest guy.
Not voodoo. It's like he's like a Hindu priest almost.
Yeah, he comes off as more of a con man though than anything else. Like, because he complains and he whines a lot in this film. He's a very I guess it's supposed to be he's supposed to be the comic relief because he's such a like obvious coward, and he's constantly. Like, from the very beginning, he talks about how much he loves gold. He's just constantly trying to get gold. Whenever I think they bring that coin with them, the one with the cool graphics, and they like flip it to him, he's like, "Ooh, gold!" Like in this stupid, annoying voice, which he uses through the entire movie. And it's supposed to be funny, but it's just like he is the annoying character that Sharon Stone was in the first movie. Exactly right. They kind of like switched it around on us, and now we have this random guy that we have no, I guess, like, knowledge of, and he's the new Sharon Stone.
Yeah. So why?
Super weird that they did that.
So they're trying to find the lost city of gold, some lost civilization, which is what the guy who was getting hunted was talking and blathering about. We glossed over the spot. So the reason that they're going to the lost city of gold is because Allan Quatermain heard from the guy was being hunted that his brother was there? Or
So,
it went missing or something?
He said that Allan Quatermain's brother might be there, which is we've never. I don't remember in the first movie if Allan Quatermain said that he had a brother. It's just all of a sudden, hey, by the way, Alan, your brother's going to probably be here at the Lost City of Gold, and you need to go rescue him.
Oh, my plot brother.
It's definitely wonky, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But this causes strife between Allan Quatermain and Sharon Stone. Sharon Stone's essentially like, I'm leaving you, Alan. And then Allan Quatermain is like, well, I'm going to go find my brother because, he's my brother, right?
Yeah, like, he's kind of right. Like, I mean, she comes around in the end, but, like, this idea that he's being unreasonable by postponing their wedding because he wants to go save his brother who has been missing and might be in serious mortal danger. Like, that doesn't seem like much of a choice to me. Like, obviously, go save your brother. We can get married whenever.
Yeah. But Sharon Stone leaves, and then they do another gag with her, kind of like how they did in the first one, where she realizes the error of her ways. She's like, I'm going to go to Allan Quatermain, and she starts stripping in, like, this Jeep that's driving, and it bucks her off, right?
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
Super weird. I don't get like, with that joke, that gag cut out, the movie is infinitely better.
Yeah, that was like the one, because that was one of the most annoying things about her character in the first movie, which is like they would constantly put her in these situations where it's just a comic relief thing where like, look how bad she is at doing blank because she's a silly woman. Like, they constantly were poking fun at her for that in the first movie. And this is the one time in this movie where they did that. And if they just, yeah, you're right. If they just cut it out, her character would be infinitely more likable and you would hate the movie slightly less.
Exactly. I was thinking the same thing. These like directors or the writers, they need to sit down and actually edit these films sometimes and realize that joke, that gag, it doesn't happen again. Like, that kind of gag doesn't happen again in the movie. So just get rid of it.
Yeah.
Anyways, we could spend a lot of time hating on that scene. Allan Quatermain, he's on the hunt to find his brother, but he needs to get a gang of people together. And it brings him to another village where he meets James Earl Jones as Mufasa, essentially.
Yeah, basically the same character he played in Exorcist 2, right?
Pretty
same
much.
Costume.
Pretty much. And did you think he was going to be a bad guy just based off of his entire demeanor the entire film?
I thought so too. He had bad guy vibes. Even his like costume felt very bad guy to me. I don't know. But apparently they're old friends. He and Quartermain go way back because reasons. I guess
exactly.
You've got a surprise brother. Why not a surprise best friend?
In certain cases, it's okay for it to be like, hey, this is my friend that I've never met or like have said before. Mm-hmm. But like, brother, that's weak storytelling.
Yeah. I don't know. At the very least, only do one of those things. Pick one. Secret surprise brother or secret surprise best friend. Don't do both.
Exactly. So lame. But James Earl Jones has a cadre of people. So Allan Quatermain's issue of needing a gang is immediately solved, right? Like, yep. This strife is over. So Allan Quatermain, Mufasa, Shawarma, and people who are just going to randomly die in the film all set off on the adventure.
I was going to say, like, we talk about how everyone is afraid, like no one wants to go with him on this adventure because they all know it's batshit crazy and they're probably going to die. These poor red shirts who they get dragged along with, like, surely they know that they're goners. when they're not even referred to as having names, they're just numbers on a balance sheet to Allan Quatermain.
Pretty much.
Totally expendable.
Pretty much. We get a pretty neat, I guess, little montage of them traveling. Like, they're the sun setting, they're in the jungle, there's mountains and all this other jazz, right?
Yeah.
And then they come up to like their first obstacle of adventuring, which is traveling through this tunnel area, which they do like the classic Indiana Jones gags with like spears coming out and stuff like that.
Traps.
Based off of pressure plates and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it seems pretty easy for them to get across for the most part until Shawarma tries to take like this gold plate off. And then the whole physics of the entire fucking scene goes out the door because they do this establishing shot from far away where we can see that it's a bridge and there's nothing underneath it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then once Shawarma takes the gold piece away and the floor comes out from underneath them, it makes no sense how this whole scene would work.
Yeah, like it opens up into this huge, deep, like bottomless pit chasm underneath them. Like the floor like splits down the middle and goes off to the sides. So, like they're all like scrambling to flatten themselves against the wall so they don't fall. And like I have to believe it was just an error in the matte painting that they did. Like, because you're right, it looked like it was almost suspended above the ground, like it was high up. Like like, okay, where is that chasm? I mean, I have to believe that was just an error in the visuals because. Otherwise, you're right. It makes no sense. Like, where did this bottomless pit come from all of a sudden? That, like, there was empty space there, or so it looked like. It was really strange. But it did look kind of cool. I'll give it that.
It did look neat. And then, of course, like, it had, like, the dead bodies coming out. And somehow Allan Quatermain knew one of them. He's like, that's Bob. And then his face splits off. That part was pretty neat. But
I was going to say, like... So we obviously this movie rips off Indiana Jones, and one of the like trademarks of Indiana Jones movies is these like surprisingly gruesome like corpses and bodies and things that happen. And so they're like, they're trying not to fall into the chasm, and this body, this like mummified corpse, falls out of the wall, and of course Sharon Stone sees it and screams her head off. But then you get this close up of the face, and like the mummified flesh just sort of like peels off like an onion. And there's this like bloody, gooey skull underneath. It's really cool. It's surprisingly well done and surprisingly gruesome for this movie. It feels really out of place, but it looks cool.
I agree. They don't have a gag like that again, where it's essentially the guy tearing his face off in Poltergeist, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it looks like.
But they get over it, and then they start paddling down the river. And they come up to like another tribesman, and they do the same gag that they did in the previous film, because I do remember this. Allan Quatermain is like, we can travel down their river if we give them Sharon Stone. Do you remember that the last time? It was like, essentially, we give them Sharon Stone.
Yeah. It's definitely, it's definitely something they did in the first one. This concept of like, oh, she's a pretty blonde lady, so of course she's got to become like trade goods for some quote unquote evil cannibal tribe. It's distasteful, but it's like they do the exact same thing in the previous movie. Why would they do it again?
It didn't work the first time, and it doesn't work the second time either.
No.
And it kind of goes nowhere because they don't give up Sharon Stone, and they still keep on going down the river. So what was the whole point of them doing that gag?
I don't know. They try to like convince them to take this shitty rusty teapot instead, and I guess he just kind of buys it, but then doesn't take anything, and then they just boat by. But I guess they've decided to kill them at that point, so they're gonna ambush them later. I don't know.
Which is exactly what they do. They ambush them later, and they're throwing spears and shooting arrows. Allan Quatermain gets a spear to the chest, but he's wearing the mithril, so he's perfectly fine. Like, again, the whole suspense of the scene is kind of gone, because once Allan Quatermain gets stabbed, they're like, oh, he's a god.
Yeah, which, again, that also feels like something they probably did in the first one, where they mistake the white adventurer for some kind of deity or something.
Exactly.
I mean, so like, I want like this whole canoe action scene. It reminded me of that one action scene that we got in the first movie, where remember that he was like fighting the not Nazi guy under the train car.
Yes, which was a really great like set piece.
And that's the thing. Like it's one of those things that sounded cool on paper, but in practice, it seems it's like so slow and awkward. Like imagine, we'll do a hand to hand combat under a train. That sounds so cool. Train will be going really fast, but in the movie, it just was kind of awkward because they couldn't really like throw a punch, and they're just kind of wrestling.
Yes,
that's what it sounds like in this movie. Where on paper it's like, oh, it's going to be dark, and there's going to be guys jumping out of the water with torches and spears, and they're going to be throwing the canoes at each other. And it sounded cool on paper, and then in practice, it's just super awkward because everyone's like trying to keep their balance on these rickety old canoes, and people are just like splashing each other. It just seems awkward and slow.
It gets even more awkward in the next scene as they come upon a whirlpool and they get sucked down into this cavern. Did you notice that when they were getting sucked down into the cavern that they turned into little toys?
They did. They turned into stop motion puppets.
Yeah, and then we get this horrible blue screen effect of them going down like into the cavern. It looks like a Disney World thing, and it honestly looks like it goes into a circle, like it's a constant circle. I understand that they're probably going down into a cave, but because there's no establishment of them going down, it's just a constant loop. It looks really weird.
Yeah, they're definitely not going down. You're right. That's probably what they were going for, was trying to have it be like a spiral, like river slide. That's probably something that they would have it as a Disney ride. But it's obviously they're just going around in circles. And God, the blue screen is so bad.
It's so bad.
So bad.
Sharon Stone has this blue aura around her the entire time.
Yeah, they couldn't properly like key out the spots in their hair. Like even Allan Quatermain has that going on with the back of his head. It's so bad. Like way worse than a lot of like contemporary movies who are doing blue screen things. It's bad. I
don't see how this is post Star Wars and blue screen looks this bad.
Oh yeah, that's a great example. Like remember, because Return of the Jedi has come out at this point, right?
Yep. And
the scene on the speeder bikes, which I'm assuming was shot in front of a blue screen, or at least their part of it, like that looks like $1 million. This looks like shit.
And
I don't know.
The blue screen scene lasts for so long. Like, why wouldn't they go for like some kind of rear projection type effect here?
Anything.
Because this whole Disney World ride goes on for way too long. Because now that they're in the belly of the cave, there's like a fire effect, and it's so hot that all the red shirts are essentially dead immediately. Like the heat from the fire kills them.
Sharon Stone says something funny here where she's like, we've lost another, I think they're the Ascari or something like that. But she just says, we lost another one. Like totally, like these are human beings, Sharon Stone. They have names. She just treated them like random numbers. It's so callous. And yeah, like they've lost all of their extra guys on this into this fire tornado that's inexplicably in the middle of this cave. It's so awkward.
It is very awkward. And it's awkward how he ends it too. Allan Quatermain shoots it's a stalactite when it's holding on to the roof of the cave,
stalactite's
right?
Top. I think that's a mnemonic device. Yeah, I think you're right. Stalactite.
And it like plugs up the fire hole, which doesn't make any sense to me.
It plugs up my fire hole. Oh my god! Did you note like I was eyeballing the miniatures in this scene because there's nothing exciting going on with the people. You could actually see like, you know, when you are like shaping clay or something, and if you're using a tool, like the tool leaves marks in the clay that aren't natural looking. Like you could see like scrape marks from like some kind of brush or a fork that they used to shape the stalactite. It was so obviously like a model that someone, like a person, made with a tool. It looked like dog shit.
Oh yeah. Again, like they press Gumby a little too hard, right? And now they got like the thumbprint inside of them.
Yeah, they see a thumbprint or a fingernail or something. Like that's what it looked like.
It's weird. It's weird. Eventually though, Sharon Stone, she falls into like a pit. Like I get that there's traps in these caves and like Indiana Jones and stuff like that. But this one seems like every step is a trap at this point. And it to the point to where it's getting like kind of boring. Like Sharon Stone, they get out of the boat, she takes a step, she falls down into like a well type thing.
Yeah, because they've gotten past the fire tornado at this point. She, I guess, passes out from the heat and then wakes up in the canoe, and she's walking down this cave with Allan Quatermain. They're looking at runes and things on the walls. And then, almost immediately, she falls into a pit that somehow Allan Quatermain didn't fall into because I guess he had come through here before. It's so expected at this point that you're like the cool thing about surprise traps is totally lost at this point.
Exactly. And then there's these really weird looking like ancient mutant snakes that start slithering out. They look goofy as shit. Like the effect for them is not good.
It's so obviously like a guy with his hand in a puppet tube. Yeah, they look like sock puppets. It looks kind of adorable.
Than Snake 2 the Bite.
Curse 2 the Bite?
Curse 2 the Bite.
the curse hand, yeah. Oh man, remember Curse 2 the Bite? We should go watch that instead of this.
Oh man, I would totally rewatch that one. Totally rewatch that.
But yeah, after they blast a couple puppet hands, they get by without really much of a scratch.
And then again, they come across like a chasm, a totally jumpable chasm. But Shawarma is like, I can't do this, and
I'm a coward.
James Earl Jones tosses him like Gimli the dwarf across, and again, it's like because they're the main characters, any strife that they run into is immediately resolved with no issues,
minimal effort. Because right after they get to the chasm, they run into a lion or something, or was it a bear? I don't remember. Some wild animal, which Quartermain just fucking shoots.
Yep, it's a lion. And he shoots once and it dies, like, immediately.
It turns into a bad taxidermy. Yep. No effort. We got through this scary danger cavern with basically not a scratch on us.
Unless you're a red shirt, and then you're fucking toast, but you die so quickly it doesn't really matter.
That's true. We've forgotten about them. All the red shirts are gone now.
But then after all the red shirts, then we get bat gags, which like
more
the bat
puppets.
Looks horrible too.
Yeah, definitely. Clearly, again, people with their hand in a puppet. But like, so there was one giant bat that was like screeching at Sharon Stone, but then they were just tiny little like normal sized bats later, and then they were gone. That seems like kind of a, I don't know, wasted opportunity. Show me more of that big giant bat.
Exactly. It never comes back.
No, they just fly away and everything is fine.
But, yeah. And then eventually they get to the end of the cave, and on the other side is a rainbow. And they can see the lost city of gold. There's like a lava flow going down towards it, too.
Yeah, even though it's a river full of water. And then they pan across and now it's lava?
You know, I never even thought of that.
I mean, it's kind of a cool waterfall. I wonder if it's like a famous waterfall, because it's pretty huge. I mean, it's like Niagara Falls sized thing. But apparently water turns to lava in this magical land of gold cities and whatnot.
Yeah, and it kind of, I guess it sets up the climax for the movie of why it's lava, right? But you don't really know that in the beginning. And also, we're at the hour mark, and we've just got to the lost city of gold. This is the biggest downfall of the movie, is that it took an hour to get there out of an hour and 40-minute movie. And now we have to get introduced to Allan Quatermain's brother and the villain at the same time.
I was going to say, like, the main villain of the movie is just now getting introduced. And yeah, we're past the halfway mark at this point.
Exactly. It's lazy. As they come out, or as they approach the building for the Lost City of Gold, a little boy comes out, and then they say a quote. Greg, what is it? Because I don't want to record a segment.
Yeah. So take this with a grain of salt. So apparently, the mythology of this Lost City of Gold is that there is a lost tribe of African white people who live in this city of gold. But they don't say that. They refer to it as the lost white race. So What does Sharon Stone say when she sees this little Aryan boy trotting out of this city? She says, oh, the white race does exist.
The white race does exist.
Oh my God. We'll play it right here. It is the most awkward, uncomfortable thing to come out of someone's mouth. You know, this was a runner-up to quote of the week. I didn't give it quote of the week because it was just so damn uncomfortable to listen to. But God, it's so awkward, and I just so tone deaf.
It is. Again, another just weird thing. But as they enter the city, Allan Quatermain immediately meets his brother, who I guess is like 20 years younger than Allan. Has to be, at least.
Yeah, he looks like he's... So Allan Quatermain, he's got to be, what, in his 50s in this movie?
Oh, easily.
And this guy looks like he's probably like 22, 23. Fresh-faced. Yeah. Maybe from a, half-brother from a different marriage. Who knows? We don't know the Quartermain family dynamics well enough.
What if it's like he's like a half brother or something? I don't know. It's just really weird.
It's like
Why
like
couldn't
Kirk's
they find
brother
someone closer in age? Oh, that's so weird.
In Search for Spock, right? Is that Search for Spock, right? Where he shows up, or is that Wrath of Khan? Does he show up for the first time?
No,
Jeez.
Do you mean Spock's half brother? Because Kirk's brother, I believe, died in the original series.
Doesn't. Oh, I'm thinking of Kirk's son. God damn it.
Kirk's son, yeah.
Yeah, that's my bad. Wow, I just lost all my. You can edit this out, right? I lost all my Star Trek cred in that in that little blurb alone. Pay no attention.
It's it's the whole Kirk's son aspect of it, where all of a sudden David exists, and I don't even remember, does Kirk ever meet the mom in the original series? I believe he does, but I don't really remember.
I don't remember either.
But it's just one of those weird hand-wavy moments of like,
suddenly they've got extended family. Yeah. Whatever.
Really weird.
His 25-year-old younger brother, Bobby Quartermain, or whatever the hell his name is.
But yeah, so we meet him, and then we immediately meet the bad guy, who looks like a cross between Will Ferrell doing an evil guy impression, or there was at one point, and I think it was in the screen capture that you sent me of him. Yeah. This is a deep cut, but he looks like Daniel Tosh with really puffy hair.
Okay, so people listening aren't going to know what the hell we're talking about, but I can absolutely see it when you put it that way. He's got Daniel Tosh eyes.
He does.
Right? That's what it is. So, okay, I was thinking, because in all of my notes, I kept calling him Evil Gene Simmons because of the hair. That's what it is. It's Daniel Tosh wearing a Gene Simmons wig and a sprinkle of Will Ferrell DNA. That's what this guy looks like.
It is. It's super weird. Super weird. And then we get introduced to him in his throne room, where Elvira comes out, who does absolutely nothing in this movie.
She doesn't. So yeah, Cassandra Peterson shows up, and I kept thinking like, oh, she would play a really good like evil priestess. She's got that look, and she's got that dark hair and those dark eyes and the makeup and everything. Like, she could totally pull off that character. But Phil, she doesn't say a goddamn word in this whole movie, does she?
And I was super confused if it was actually her, because she didn't say anything.
Yeah, what a waste. Elvira herself and nothing. Doesn't say a word. No wisecracking quips or anything. No fourth wall breaks. Bummer.
Super bummer. And she's like the queen, I assume, to this dude. Right?
So the whole structure of... we're in the Lost City of Gold. It's some kind of like utopian society. But they recently got taken over by this evil priest, Evil Gene Simmons. But there's also like a dual queen scenario going on, where like it's Cassandra Peterson and what's her name? Looks like lady from ABBA. Like, they're like co-queens with this high priest sort of in the mix. I don't know how this all works, but they're all kind of in charge, I guess. But he's evil, and only one of the queens is evil. I don't know.
He like takes advice from both of them. Maybe he's kind of like Two-Face, and these two women help out with like the dichotomy of good versus evil and whatnot.
That's true. Yeah, like the Alvira, she's like the little like cartoon devil on his shoulder, and then the other Abba lady is the little angel. Okay, I see where you're going. I guess that's kind of what's going on though, because there's a one good queen, one evil queen, even though she really doesn't do anything evil. I don't know. This all feels really like hand wavy and rushed. How this whole like utopian city of gold society works. We don't really need to care though.
And we said he looked like Daniel Tosh and Will Ferrell, right?
Yeah, also that. Him, Gene Simmons, whatever. Evil hair guy.
Gene Tosh is also fucking he's also gold member because he's dipping people in gold and like encasing them in there.
Yeah, so I guess that's the society is super gold flush, and apparently that's something he likes to do because he's like, oh, they take too long to carve gold statues, so I'm just gonna start dipping dudes into molten gold, and then they turn into little gold mummies, and because art, but he's loving it too much because that screen capture I sent you, he's like practically orgasming. He's loving this weird gold mummification dipping thing so much.
He is. It's like the first time he's ever done it or something like that, and he's getting off hard on it. It's super weird.
Look at that guy struggle. Ugh.
Shawarma, he gets caught trying to steal some gold, and there's a little bit of strife between the bad guy and Shawarma, but essentially Shawarma is being used to get Allan Quatermain essentially in a position to where he can get goldified or something, right? Like they're trying to use Shawarma against Allan Quatermain.
I'm glad you know, because at this point in the movie, I mean, we gave this movie some credit in the beginning for being somewhat easy to follow. I feel like that kind of stopped as soon as they got to the city, because I don't know what the High Priest's scheme was with him and Shawarma and Quartermain. Like, I didn't get what the scheme was. So you think they're trying to play them off each other?
I think so. I think there's like a little bit of it. But I'm not, yeah. I don't know, like there shouldn't be any strife at this point. I know like Allan Quatermain's brother is like, hey, this bad guy is a bad guy. And this place used to be peaceful before he got here. And I don't get why Allan Quatermain just can't immediately shoot him, because it's not like
like the lion.
It's not like evil Gene Simmons has any like bomb or threat over the village.
He's got no leverage. Prevent them.
Yeah, exactly.
So okay, that's you bring up that's like the one big criticism I have for the whole plot of this movie is, how is evil Gene Simmons in power here? Because everyone clearly hates him, but he has like no lackeys or no power. Like he's got no muscle to sort of enforce, like to keep people downtrodden and keep them subjugated. Like they all seem pretty kind of like chill and happy, the townspeople, like that when they welcome them into the city with fruit and shit. But like they apparently hate this guy enough that they want him dead. But he's still in power. Like, why did they not just overthrow him if it's just him? Like, there's no evil army? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I don't get how he stays in power, because he has, like you said, he has no power over anyone else.
Yeah, and yeah, like you're right. He's got no atom bomb or something. Yeah, he's got no like secret weapon, or he's got no like super powerful magic that he's gonna like, I guess it's just the threat of being dipped in gold that's keeping them in line. I don't know. I guess that's a pretty good threat now that I think about it. I don't want to be dipped in gold.
I wouldn't want to be dipped in gold either. And then there's a quick scene, and it's a blink and you miss it scene, but it's Shawarma stealing Allan Quatermain's gun and mithril vest.
Oh, I definitely missed that, because I was wondering how he got it later.
But yeah, so it sets up for some kind of action going on later in the film. There's just a lot of nothingness in this last 40 minutes of the movie. A lot of like setups between tribes and double crosses and backstabs, because the evil tribe that was hunting Allan, the dude in the very beginning, shows up, and they start to do a siege on the city now. Like,
when did they do? There was like, was this after the siege or before? Like, they did this weird like strength contest between Allan Quatermain and some.
And the evil tribe leader, yeah.
Yeah, one of the evil tribe leader, but not evil Gene Simmons, some like third party evil guy. And they were like breaking rocks over each other. Did that come after? Or shit, this whole like the sequence of events here is they're all just kind of like random scenes kind of peppered together. But like they did this guy, he's like trying to prove how strong he is because he's trying to like assert dominance over Allan Quatermain or something, and Allan Quatermain like sneakily lights a stick of dynamite to blow the rock in half, and I don't know what that was all about.
There's a whole bunch of like weird things that just don't really make sense or mean anything in that little, like, in the 20 minutes in between him meeting the bad guy and then the final battle with the bad guy.
Right. Okay, yeah, you're right. Because, then that's after that is when the siege happens and there's, like, some evil army and he's evil Gene Simmons is outside of the walls now and he needs to storm his way back in?
Yeah, so he goes out and he gathers the evil tribe leader to siege his own city that he always had control of to flush out Allan Quatermain and kill him. Though he could have done it at any moment.
Yeah, why didn't, like, so there was that point in time when they first get to the city and they've got Allan Quatermain, like, standing in front of the gold pit. Why not just shove him in then? Like, yeah. Right? What was did he not realize he was a threat until after he did the dynamite trick? I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But we do eventually get to the point where Allan Quatermain is fighting off all the different tribes. And then there's this weird part. The ending is super weird. How Allan Quatermain defeats the bad guy.
He turns into Thor, of course.
Essentially, he grabs an axe, and during the battle, there's a thunderstorm, and he gets on top of this gold dome over the city, and he starts striking it, and as he strikes it, lightning hits, too. So all the gold starts melting, and it starts falling on the evil tribe, killing them as they get encased in gold. And then eventually, Daniel Tosh gets underneath the flowing gold, and he becomes a gold person.
Yeah.
And that's Allan Quatermain and the city of the lost gold.
And yeah, so why was the lightning striking the dome?
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Because we didn't like this is the axe that James Earl Jones is walking around with. We didn't establish that it's some sort of magic axe, did we? Did I miss that scene? So I guess when you hit a gold dome with an iron or steel axe, that makes lightning for reasons. And then if he was making the gold dome turn molten, wouldn't he have, like, he was standing on the dome while it was turning molten. Wouldn't he have, like, gold feet now?
It should, because the gold should be melting right underneath him, too.
Around him, yeah. I don't know. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense how the molten gold becomes molten and how it flows to just the right spot in front of the gates to, like, douse all the bad guys, but not the good guys.
Yeah, it's super weird. Super weird.
It just kind of ends. And Phil, I hate the ending of this the most because they go through pains to talk about how Allan Quatermain, he's like, oh, you're putting off the wedding. They have that scene of, like, the freeze frame at the very end where he and Sharon Stone kiss, and it's like, oh, it's a happy ending. They missed an opportunity to, like, cut that kiss to the kiss at the end of a wedding ceremony.
Dude, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like, they could have wrapped it all up.
That could have wrapped it all up. Oh, now that his brother is safe, and they could show his brother and the good queen down in America, and they've had a wedding, and it's all a big happy scene, and no, they just freeze frame outside the city, and it's like still on fire and molten golds all over the place behind them, and nope, that's the end.
It's like that scene in Police Squad, where Frank Drebin's like, it's okay, everything is fine, nothing to see here.
Nothing. There's
Like
fireworks going off behind him.
everything is falling apart behind them, but it's okay.
Yeah, they're like their glorious city of gold, this utopian society, has been freed from Evil Gene Simmons's, scary grass, but like their city is in ruins, people are dead, all of their gold dome is like floating through the streets, like their city's like totally fucked up now. But whatever. Allan Quatermain got his brother back, he got the girl. Later.
Exactly. Later.
I guess.
Well, thank God that this is the last Allan Quatermain film that we ever have to watch.
Oh, thank God. I thought you were going to tell me there was going to be a fucking third one.
No. This one, again, it bombed at the box office. It was a complete disaster. I can see why, right? Like it's better than the first, but it's still not great. And I gave it 3 stars overall because it is way better than the first one, right?
Yeah, it was a 2 for me. I honestly feel like talking about that, like the last half, I think that's what it is. I think the first half is actually a fairly solid, if cheesy, like B Indiana Jones ripoff. But the second half of the movie is just so disjointed and batshit crazy. I almost like talking myself down from that opinion now. I don't know. It feels like lower than a 2 for me now, maybe.
It's definitely one of those times where now that we've talked about it, right? I like it less.
Yeah. But I think the opinion still stands overall that it's definitely a lot better, more watchable than the first one. I can see a lot of kids having seen this on video at home, more so than the first one, and really like having fond memories for this one. Like nostalgia value almost.
Oh, 100%. This is one of those movies where you go, oh man, as a kid, I loved Allan Quatermain, but as an adult, when you watch it, you've got nothing to attach it to. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, like I said in the beginning, there's like still a lot of really kind of uncomfortable in 2020 kinds of things. Like the just how they depict Africa and tribes in general. I mean, the fact that they added a white tribe, which I don't know if you felt this way, but they look like a fucking cult in those white robes. I don't know. It felt there's something politically incorrect about that, and I can't put my finger on it, but it just feels uncomfortable and stupid.
Yeah, it is. Kind of like a Jonestown type thing, and I know that's not what they're going for, but I don't really get the whole... Yeah, I don't get the line of like, oh, white people in Africa, the lost tribe of white people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't... There was so much implied in that moment, but nothing gained. And then, again, like, Cassandra Peterson is a known person. Why have her in it if you're not going to have her do anything?
Yeah. I don't know. That whole... Really, again, it's the whole, like, second half, last third of the movie that just falls apart. But, yeah, I mean, like, there's some of those gruesome effects, some of the charming puppets and the miniatures. Like, really all of the parts up until the point where they get to the Lost City of Gold are actually kind of charming in a B-movie way.
Yeah, exactly. And, I don't mind the horrible graphics and stuff like that. And I don't mind the cheesy action, but I think it's the fact that they wasted so much time up front that when we got to the end, we didn't know anyone who we needed to know, and it didn't really mean anything anymore.
Yeah. Honestly, I would have been happier, and I know you can't really do this because there would be like no conflict, but like I liked the first, like the traveling scenes and the montages and all of that stuff so much. Like I wish that was just kind of the whole movie. Like
that would be neat.
Yeah, like have them when they get to the Lost City of Gold, like that's the end. Like, oh, we got there, we found it, we're famous now. We something like that. We're like the whole like a second movie shouldn't be starting by the time I get there.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's hard to recommend this either way, but I mean, if you're curious about the Allan Quatermain movies, if you want to pick one, pick this one. You're really not missing enough from the first one, aside from the fact that Quartermain and Sharon Stone know each other. You can probably just watch this one. It's a better movie overall.
Exactly. If you can't like get a hold of Indiana Jones.
you can't get a hold of it, or like, you know, you're in a home invasion scenario and the guy's forcing you at gunpoint to watch one of the Allan Quatermain movies, pick this one. So, you know, it's gonna, you're gonna have a better time before you
unless you want unless you want your little bit of time to feel like forever, then watch the first one.
That's true. If you want your last moments before that home invader strangles you, maybe pick the first one. He'll be so bored he'll fall asleep, and then you'll be able to get away.
Well, Greg, I don't think we're going to be... Well, first off, I guess, what have you been watching before we get to the next movie that we're going to watch?
Oh,
what have you been watching?
What good shit? So, geez, I don't know if we talked about this up front, but it's been a while since we last recorded. We've been doing some summer vacations. We kind of took a little sabbatical. We're back recording again. I've actually surprisingly not watched a ton, but I've watched some good stuff more recently, after I got back from a vacation. We finally hit the theater back up again after a couple weeks. We saw The Black Phone, that new Blumhouse horror movie that's out right now. Ethan Hawke is in it. He's the main, he's like a kidnapper. He keeps kids in the basement. I won't spoil it because there's some good stuff in it, but it's not bad overall. It's pretty solid flick. There's a lot of cool ideas in it that, again, I won't spoil, but they felt kind of underdeveloped. When you and I were messaging all afterwards, I said that it almost could have been longer, because it's not like they were bad ideas. They were good ideas. I just wanted to see more of them, have them be more developed. So the movie probably could have stood to be 20 minutes longer, because I think it was a solid hour and a half, 90-minute flick. But overall, it was pretty good. I'd say if you're a horror fan, it's worth a ticket purchase. What else? Oh, so last night, I feel I presented you with I need you to make a decision for me on what to watch. I got a delivery of some new Criterion releases. One of them was Pink Flamingos, and one of them was Shaft, and you picked Shaft for me, so I watched that in 4K, which looked great. It's an awesome movie. I mean, lots been said about that, but I think the thing that stuck out to me most about this rewatch was just how awesome the soundtrack is.
It is a really great soundtrack,
right? The Isaac Hayes soundtrack, it's no wonder that it won so many awards. I think it was I think it won an Oscar and a Grammy, maybe some other stuff too, but the music is so awesome. And I mean, Richard Roundtree is just cool as cucumber, man. He rides that line between being confident and charming, but not an overconfident asshole. It's perfect. So if you haven't seen Shaft, do yourself a service and go watch it. I mean, it's obvious why it saved MGM's ass back in the 70s.
Yeah, Richard Roundtree. I'm always surprised that he didn't become more popular than what he was.
Yeah, because I mean, we've seen him in some. Didn't he show up in a Cannon movie?
He has. I forgot which one.
What the hell was it?
It was the one with Ernest Borgnine or Wilford Brimley.
What the hell? Which one was that?
Not Dangerously Close. Brimley, Richard Roundtree.
That's gonna drive me crazy. Yeah, you got to look that up. But yeah, he did a bunch of B movies after that, which is really surprising.
Yeah, and I don't get why he's such a
yeah.
It's gonna upset me, but I cannot think of the movie.
We'll leave some space in our dialogue so you can insert it. The name of the movie is. Oh, that one. Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, that's the one. That's the one where the kids are fucking killing other kids, Greg. It's the one where the kids are killing the kids.
Wait.
Don't you?
Wait, what?
It's the one where it's the kid, his sister dies, and then they become a town gang, and at the end he has the grenade. And he's like, "Oh no, Young Warriors! Young Warriors!
Yes, Young Warriors." Oh, well done. Did you just talk your way to that memory?
Yes.
Well done.
Yep.
But yes, Richard Roundtree was slumming it in Young Warriors. But go watch Shaft. It's peak Richard Roundtree. Awesome movie. Yeah, I think those are the two highlights for me recently. What about you, Phil? What have you been watching?
There hasn't been too much new, movies that I've watched because I've been on vacation. So I rewatched Bill and Ted.
Awesome.
with my kid in the hotel room. But I did manage to squeeze in 2 Vinegar Syndrome movies yesterday. One of them was called Voyage of the Rock Aliens. It was a fucking musical. And this was the review that I wrote for it. The music was better than the apple. The movie was worse than the apple.
Wow.
So
I that's actually a really good review because I've not seen it, but I can imagine what you're talking about now. Because for a musical, the apple was pretty bad, but the movie itself was really, really bad. So I can understand that being kind of a flip there.
And then I watched Hobgoblins, which I believe that one's been on Red Letter Media before. They've talked about that, but essentially there's just not enough Hobgoblin action in it.
That was like a Gremlins ripoff, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Hobgoblin were the puppets cute and adorable at least when they did show up?
They were cute because they were ugly.
Well, yeah, of course, adorable, yeah, adorable in a kind of gruesome puppet way. You know.
Exactly.
Well, I'm sure at least they look good on Blu-ray.
It did. I mean, the movie looked great on Blu-ray. Good. Absolutely great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Speaking of looking great, that was one of the other things that I mentioned. I picked up a couple 4K Blu-rays not that long ago also. I watched Apollo 13 on 4K. Haven't seen that movie in probably like 10 years, but man, that really took the 4K upgrade perfectly. I mean, it looks like $1 million. I think you and I were talking a little bit about like how well the CG and the miniatures in that one have held up. And I think you're right. It was because they used the CG sparingly and it used it kind of to better blend the models and things. But yeah, that's one of my favorite movies. It's, classic space adventure based on a true story. Always good. But yeah, it looks great on 4K, that's for sure. It's
based on a true story.
Yeah, remember and then the aliens show up and they take Tom Hanks away and they probe him for like 45 minutes? And then
yeah, that was a scene in Toy Story, I think, right? That was in Pizza Planet.
Buzz! Oh, man. You know that movie, Apollo 13.
Yeah, no, it's a classic. Ron Howard classic.
Of course. With Clint Howard.
Oh! With Clint Howard, yeah.
So, okay, a small Star Trek digression, but so I was like, when they were in those scenes with Mission Control, and this is what I do in these movies I've seen a million times, where I try to pick out character actors. Now that I've seen a lot of these bad movies, I start to recognize people more. Lots of familiar character actors in that Mission Control scene. Clint Howard, chief among them. Clint Howard. But guess who else shows up? He has one line. It's Rom from Deep Space Nine, Max Grodensheik.
Wow.
Right?
That's insane.
I know. He's got a very distinctive look. He's kind of an interesting looking guy, but I've never seen him outside of the Jesus Christ, I'm blanking on what are those people? The guys with the big ears. Wow, oh my god. Ferengis, yes, thank you. Gosh, my cred is just so far out the window now. But yeah,
man, that fucking Arizona heat zapped you.
Oh my god. And I said Ferengis too, when the plural of Ferengi is Ferengi. Oh my gosh. I'm just gonna go force myself to sit in a room and watch Deep Space Nine back to back for about 12 hours to regain my Star Trek cred. But yeah, I just thought that was cool. It's always fun when you see Star Trek people crop up when they do, because they crop up all the time.
But oh yeah, I mean, because so many people have been in Star Trek, but I've been not rewatching, but I've been watching the new series. I'm way far behind on it, but I'm very impressed with it so far too.
Oh yeah,
Strange New World.
Yeah, I think we might have. Did we talk about that last time?
I think we have touched upon it, but
yeah,
damn, that show is good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as much of a Discovery hater as a lot of people are. I think that's the newer shows, Discovery and Picard. I think a lot more love them or hate them, but you have to admit that Strange New World is definitely much more of the classic Star Trek formula, very episodic. And the most recent episode where they had the whole ship turns medieval and they're all in these goofy costumes, it reminded me of that episode of TNG where Q transplants them back to Robin Hood in Sherwood Forest, all those goofy costumes. It had things like that feel very Star Trek. And honestly, the characters in this show, I know more about the bridge crew, even the new characters, Ortegas and Noonien Singh, the doctors and Mbenga. I don't know, just the fact that I know their names probably speaks volumes about how much more I'm enjoying it than I did Discovery and Picard.
Oh yeah, definitely. Exactly.
So
I don't think there's anything else to say about New Trek.
No, yeah, go watch Strange New Worlds. It's worth a Paramount Plus subscription.
Well, the next movie that we're gonna watch is a Sylvester Stallone film.
Cobra 2, the Quartermain.
Over the Top.
Oh my gosh.
It is a sports drama film about arm wrestling.
Arm wrestling. Oh wow. We've finally gotten to it. This is another one of those movies I think we mentioned in our very first episode as like movies that we were surprised as having been canon movies because we'd heard about them, the mythology of them, the like legendarily goofy bad movies. Oh, that's wow. I didn't realize we were here already.
Exactly. We are here. And I this is definitely, again, I'm going to church it up. I love this movie.
Between Cobra and this,
I think this is pinnacle for me, canon. Like when I think of, there's a couple other movies after this that are definitely like canon classics for me.
Mm-hmm.
But this one definitely is like probably one of the biggest canon films that I remember rewatching a lot as a kid.
I'll say this one has the childhood nostalgia that we talked about, where like you weren't an Allan Quatermain kid, you were a Sylvester Stallone doing arm wrestling kid.
Oh yeah, exactly. Which is so weird to think of.
I'll say as a kid, you don't think that you would gravitate to a movie like this, but I mean, I don't know. They're like,
because of my dad. My dad's a Stallone fan,
yeah,
so
it's what you're exposed to. I mean, like, so I've never seen it. It'll be interesting for me coming into it fresh when you've seen it before. But I mean, I like Karate Kid. Like I like sports movies. I mean, there's, you don't really necessarily have to be into the sport to appreciate a good, kind of a comeback story or something. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. Oh, you should be. I mean, it's fun. I'll say that. If anything, you're definitely not going to watch it and be like, oh, I'm bored. At least I hope not.
Yeah. I was going to say, is this like another case where I'm just going to totally let Phil down? We're not going to be friends anymore because I'm going to hate the arm wrestling movie.
Exactly. No, I think we'll be fine.
We better be.
Well,
wait.
I think we do actually have an email here, Greg.
Are you kidding?
I'm not. It's from Jackie. But she is a fan, so I'm gonna read it.
Yay!
Phil
email
and Greg,
correspondence.
Exactly. I've been listening to your podcast for a while and think it would be cool if you could make a recap episode, not just about the movies in general, but talk about the best worst categories like best original song, costume, character development, worst jokes and dialogue, worst effects.
Oh.
Maybe you can even make a Spotify playlist of the best original canon movie songs or YouTube videos to go with it.
That's
from
a really
Jackie,
good idea.
which I think like that's definitely, I think that's something that we can definitely do for a retrospective episode. For sure.
A first annual That's Canon Awards.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
Woo! That's an awesome idea. Yeah.
That is an awesome idea.
And so we did a retro after 50 or 25. It was early on. I think it was 25.
I think it was 25 because I think 25 we were like, man, we made it. Like this is we went the distance.
How little we knew at the time that here we are on episode 67. What feels, I mean, that was probably, how long ago? Hang on a second, I can bring it up. When did we do our 25 retro? That was, we recorded that near my dates are all screwed up here. Yeah, I don't know. It's been like a year plus since we recorded that, so.
Yeah. We've definitely
accumulated a year's worth of high highs and low lows. So I think there's definitely, we could definitely do another retro episode for sure. And
nice.
Frame it to some awards. So yeah, good idea. Thanks for the email.
Well, I don't think I have anything else. Greg, do you have anything else?
No. On to the next Sly movie. Let's do it.
Exactly. Well, if you like what you're hearing, go ahead, like, subscribe, comment anywhere you can. You can follow us on YouTube at That's Canon. we've been posting a lot of great stuff out there, a lot of great traction on it. So go ahead, like, subscribe, anything that you see on YouTube. Apparently not Ninja Turtle stuff though, and I don't know why. Don't exactly know why that stuff isn't doing that well.
Phil, stop trying to make Ninja Turtles happen. It's not going to happen.
It already has happened. I'm just trying to ride the wave. You can follow us on every major podcasting network. And yeah, and remember, since we said it,
that's canon.
Abracadabra. 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 Oopoopidoo. Hello, Abevadana. Owatagu sayang.